Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast is What Happens If Your Candidate Doesn't Win. I wrote an article last weekend for Maria Shriver's Sunday paper, and the title of the article is the title of this podcast, What Happens If Your Candidate Doesn't Win? Author Allison Carmen on how we can all move forward. And today what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to read the article. I don't know how long it'll take to read it, but I think that would be the most helpful thing today. It's an interesting time in the United States. Half the country is elated today that Donald Trump won, and half the country is devastated that their candidate didn't win. And I'm going to share my article with you with the hope that regardless of how you feel today, that you remember the principles of uncertainty and you remember the hope in the unknown, and remember life always has maybe. Here's the article I wrote. I know this might be the article you don't want to read with the election days away, but it's essential all the same. What's fascinating is that whether you talk to people voting for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, both sides often feel that if their candidate doesn't win, it's the end of the world. They'll have to move, democracy will crumble, and life as they know it will be over. You might be shouting at the page, insisting that your fears are real, and you know the absolute truth of what is to come. But the point here is to help you prepare in case things don't go your way. I want to offer a cushion to land on, reminders of the principles of uncertainty and the maybe mindset. A hopeful look that's flexible rather than fixed that I've developed and lived by over the years. Let's start with these 6 ideas to ground you in uncertain times. And I'm going to break from the article for a moment. I call these the 6 principles of uncertainty. I will read it slowly so you can write it down, because these are really the principles of life and when we don't know what's going to happen next. Number 1, life is inherently uncertain, always. Number 2, no one can predict the future with absolute certainty. Our minds often fill in the gaps of the unknown with worst-case scenarios, but these fears are just possibilities, not certainties. Number 3, if we accept that we don't know exactly what will happen, we realize our fears can't be absolute truths. In other words, we can't say with absolute certainty our worst fears will come true. Number 4, because we don't know the future, many outcomes remain possible. Alongside the fears live countless other possibilities. Number 5, change can only happen in the unknown future, whether it's in our lives, our communities, or the world. Meaningful change depends on the unknown. The fact that the future is unwritten leaves room for new ideas, fresh policies, and emerging voices. Number 6, uncertainty is an ally for growth and transformation. No matter the election result, uncertainty keeps the door open for future adjustments and improvements. If you're unhappy with the outcome, you can rely on the same uncertainty that the world will keep evolving, new paths will form, and the world will change again. To embrace uncertainty, I explore what I call the maybe mindset, which is a hopeful look that's flexible. If your candidate loses, you may initially think about the maybe not, imagining only tough times ahead. But if you stay open, there's another side of maybe, the potential we haven't foreseen, the chance for collaboration, and even the growth that could come out of this moment. Maybe we'll find a way to address the issues we care about and grow through the process. Some of you might still be yelling while reading this article or listening to this podcast. But again, my purpose is not to downplay the importance of voting or the real impact these election results will have on our future. But whatever happens, we'll all have to wake up the next day and carry on. And again, I'm breaking from the article, but that's this day. We woke up and we need to carry on. And on that road ahead, our perspective will make all the difference. Of course, we'll feel strongly about the outcome, but holding on to despair only traps us in a need for certainty. A tempting place to be because it makes us feel justified in giving up and complaining when things don't go as we hope. But if we want meaningful change in the world or our lives and want to do it without the weight of constant stress or despair, We need to lean into the unknown and believe in its unlimited potential and possibilities. Embracing uncertainty gives us a path to keep going when things aren't perfect, to hold on to our purpose and to keep doing the work we know matters. Resilience means staying open, even when it feels like the world is against us. And because none of us knows what's next, maybe things will change, maybe they'll improve, or maybe, just maybe, the best is still to come. Now, again, I wrote this article before the election, but it stands true today. No matter what you're going through, whether it's the election, whether you lost your job, whether you had an ending in a relationship, we truly don't know what's going to happen next. And that's a good thing because it leaves us on the playing field of unlimited possibilities. And the more you're able to let go of the fear and recognize that if you want your life to change, it has to happen in the unknown, the more you're going to make choices that align with you. And even if your fear still exists, you recognize that other possibilities are true too. And for those of you who don't know the maybe practice, remember you ask yourself what your fears are. And then when you have your fear statement, you ask yourself, is this fear absolute? Can I know for absolute certainty what this means for the future? And the great thing about life is that you can't know what happens next, so you can't know if your fears and your worries and your doubts are absolute truths. And then what you get to do is you get to write maybe statements. Maybe my thoughts are not true. Maybe there's something left for me in this moment. Maybe I could still be okay. Maybe I could accept this and find a way. Maybe it's going to be chaotic and awful, but I could still do my life's work. Maybe good things can still happen. Whatever your maybe statement is today, use the maybe practice. Because remember, again, despair is just another addiction to certainty. You cannot know with absolute certainty what will happen next. Do not give up your well-being and your joy and your resilience and your right to be here for anything and anyone. You get to feel your feelings. If you're happy today, if you're upset today, whatever you want to feel. But after a period of time, maybe is waiting for you. And when you embrace that, you really do access all that's possible for you, your family, your community, and the world. Don't let anyone sell you doom and gloom because nobody knows. And remember, I'm not telling you what's going to happen next, and I'm not selling you a false picture of the future. Maybe is very real. It allows you to see things for what they are today. It doesn't deny challenging things, but it reminds you that because you don't know, other possibilities exist other than your greatest fear. This podcast is meant for everyone today, no matter how you're feeling, and to remind you that life has maybe. It's your divine right to be here. Uncertainty is your best friend. And most of all, maybe everything is okay. Maybe everything could still be okay. Maybe there are still wonderful things to work for in our futures. And most of all, for all we know, maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe, A Year Without Men, or Maybe Everything is Okay, A Parent's Guide to Less Stress and Worry, you can find them on Amazon and all major audio platforms. If you'd like to buy my Maybe cards or my Maybe digital journal, they're available on Amazon, Etsy, and my Stan store. And most of all, if you like this podcast, I hope you subscribe and leave a comment.